Commander Sarah Chen stood motionless in the shadows of Outpost Sigma-7, her breath steady despite the growing tension in her chest. Through her neural-enhanced scope, she watched the Concordat's flagship dock with practiced precision. The massive vessel's sleek, obsidian hull absorbed the light from nearby stars, making it appear like a void against the backdrop of space. Target confirmed. She subvocalized, the quantum communicator in her neural implant transmitting to her handler back at Alliance Command. High Counselor Vex Thor has arrived. The response came instantly. Maintain position. Observe only. Sarah's jaw tightened. For 3 months, she'd tracked the Concordat's movements across 7 star systems. She'd watched as they'd systematically dismantled human colonies, their actions disguised as tragic accidents or pirate raids. But she knew better. Each incident bore the hallmarks of a coordinated campaign, one that the Alliance refused to acknowledge officially. The docking bay's atmospheric shield shimmered as a delegation of Concordat officials emerged. Their crystalline environmental suits caught the artificial light, creating prismatic patterns that would have been beautiful if Sarah didn't know what they represented. High Counselor Vex Thor moved with the fluid grace characteristic of his species, his secondary arms folded in what humans had learned was a gesture of contempt. Sarah's augmented hearing picked up fragments of their conversation through the station's external sensors. The words made her blood run cold. The human problem requires a final solution, Vex Thor was saying. Their adaptability makes them unpredictable, dangerous. Another official, their carapace bearing the marks of the science directory, gestured with a data crystal. The modified strain is ready. Once released into their core world's atmospheres, it will appear as a natural pandemic. By the time they realize. Sarah's fingers tightened on her rifle. 1 shot. That's all it would take to end this threat. But her orders were clear. Observe and report. The Alliance needed proof before they could act against the Concordat. A premature move could spark a war humanity wasn't ready to win. The delegation moved deeper into the station, disappearing from her line of sight. Sarah prepared to shift positions when her neural implant flared with warning signals. Something was wrong. The quantum link to command had gone dead. "Base, respond," she whispered. Nothing but static. The air changed. Sarah's enhanced senses detected a subtle shift in the station's atmospheric composition. Her helmet's filters identified the new element instantly. Nexus 9, a neural disruptor designed specifically to target human augmentation systems. They knew. The trap had been laid not for Vex Thor, but for her. Sarah's training took over. She activated her suit's emergency protocols, flooding her system with countermeasures. But she knew she had seconds at most before the Nexus 9 would overwhelm her defenses. The Concordat hadn't just anticipated human interference. They'd planned for it. Through rapidly blurring vision, she saw the station's security forces converging on her position. Their movements were too precise, too coordinated. This wasn't a response to a security breach. This was an execution. With her neural systems failing, Sarah made a decision that would alter the course of human history. She triggered her suit's fusion core overload sequence. The explosion that followed would be recorded in Concordat records as a tragic accident, a human operative whose equipment malfunctioned catastrophically. The official report would note that no remains were recovered, likely vaporized by the blast's intensity. Commander Sarah Chen would be declared dead, another casualty in humanity's endless struggle for survival among the stars. But in the chaos of the explosion's aftermath, as emergency teams rushed to contain the damage, no one noticed a single maintenance pod ejecting from the station's waste disposal system. Inside, protected by layers of radiation shielding and life support systems, Sarah Chen watched Outpost Sigma-7 fade into the distance. She had lost her link to command, her official status, and any hope of operating within the system. But she had gained something far more valuable: freedom from constraints and irrefutable proof of the Concordat's plans. As the pod's automated systems plotted a course toward the nearest uninhabited system, Sarah began to plan. The Concordat thought they had eliminated a threat. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous. A ghost with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The real war was about to begin. 6 months after her death, at Outpost Sigma 7, Sarah Chen sat in a dimly lit corner of the Iron Nebula Tavern on Avalon Station. The establishment catered to the dregs of galactic society, smugglers, mercenaries, and others who preferred to avoid official attention. Perfect for someone who technically didn't exist. Her neural implants, now recalibrated to avoid concordat detection patterns, scanned the crowd constantly. 3 drachnid merchants arguing over shipping routes. A group of Terran expatriates drowning their sorrows in synthetic alcohol. And in the far corner, her contact, a Caraxian information broker whose crystalline skin reflected the tavern's sparse lighting. "The data package you requested," the Caraxian said, sliding a quantum crystal across the table. "Payment on delivery, as agreed." Sarah passed over a credit chip loaded with untraceable cryptocurrency. The authenticity, verified by 3 independent sources. The Concordat's been busy. The Caraxian's faceted eyes shifted nervously. They're not just targeting humans anymore. The Araxians, the Neovari, any species showing rapid technological advancement is being managed. Sarah integrated the crystal with her augments, processing the information rapidly. The Caraxian hadn't exaggerated. The data showed a pattern of systematic suppression across dozens of worlds. Emerging civilizations finding their development mysteriously stalled. Promising technologies suddenly abandoned after accidents. Resource shortages appearing at crucial moments. "They're culling the competition," Sarah muttered, "ensuring no one else reaches their level of development." The Concordat calls it maintaining galactic stability. The Caraxian replied bitterly. "My people learned that lesson 3 centuries ago. We were developing quantum manipulation technology that could have revolutionized space travel. Then came the plagues, the economic crashes, the mysterious disappearances of our brightest minds." Sarah's augments flagged sudden movement at the tavern's entrance. A squad of station security, their armor bearing the subtle markings of Concordat influence. Standard patrol patterns didn't bring them to this sector. "We've got company," she subvocalized to her hidden backup team. Protocol echo. The Caraxian noticed too, its crystalline structure dimming in anxiety. "They're not here for me. My permits are in order." "No," Sarah agreed. "They're here for something else. Time to give them a show." As the security team began their sweep of the tavern, a fight broke out at the bar. 2 Terran miners, apparently drunk on synthetic vodka, started throwing punches. The security team moved to intervene, their attention diverted. Sarah slipped away during the chaos, using the maintenance corridors she'd mapped weeks ago. The Caraxian would leave through a different route, their brief meeting forgotten in the commotion. In her secure quarters deep within Avalon Station's abandoned industrial sector, Sarah reviewed the data in detail. The quantum crystal contained more than just evidence of the Concordat's suppression tactics. It held personnel files, shipping manifests, and most importantly, communication protocols. "They're getting sloppy," Raj's voice came through her secure channel. The former Alliance intelligence operative had been one of her first recruits. "Leaving traces like this." "Not sloppy," Sarah corrected. "Arrogant. They've been doing this so long they don't believe anyone can challenge them." She pulled up a star map, plotting the pattern of Concordat activities. Their suppression campaign wasn't random. It followed a clear mathematical progression. They were working their way through the galaxy systematically, sector by sector. "How many others have you contacted?" Raj asked. 17 species so far. All of them have similar stories. The Neovari were developing organic computing. The Araxians had breakthrough developments in zero-point energy. Each time, the Concordat intervened before these technologies could change the balance of power. And they all want revenge. Sarah shook her head. Not revenge. Justice. The Concordat's been playing God with countless civilizations, deciding who gets to advance and who stays grounded. That ends now. Her neural implants processed the new data, integrating it with information gathered over the past 6 months. A pattern emerged, one that made her blood run cold. Raj, look at these production numbers for their medical research facilities. The scale, they're not just planning to contain humanity. They're preparing for full genocide, multiple species simultaneously. God's breath, Raj whispered. Timeline. Based on these manufacturing schedules, 6 months, maybe less. They're accelerating their plans. Sarah pulled up another file. But they've made a mistake. The bioweapons they're developing require massive computing power for genomic targeting. All that data has to flow somewhere. The Nexus, Raj realized. Their central processing hub on Concordat Prime. Exactly. Which is why our next move is going to be a little crazy. Sarah smiled grimly. How do you feel about infiltrating the most heavily defended facility in known space? The plan was audacious, possibly suicidal. But as Sarah reviewed the growing network of allies she'd assembled, displaced scientists, disgraced military officers, and representatives of species the Concordat had tried to suppress, she felt something she hadn't experienced since before her death. Hope. The Concordat had spent centuries maintaining their power through subtle manipulation and carefully orchestrated accidents. They weren't prepared for an enemy who had nothing left to lose, working with others who had everything to gain. As Sarah began outlining the infiltration plan, her neural implants picked up transmissions from across the station. More security teams were conducting sweeps, looking for someone who officially didn't exist. Let them search. The ghost they were hunting was already several steps ahead, preparing to strike at the heart of their empire. The real question wasn't whether they could succeed. It was whether the galaxy was ready for the chaos that would follow when the Concordat's true nature was exposed. The Concordat's Nexus facility rose from Concordat Prime's surface like a twisted spire of black crystal, its surface seeming to absorb both light and hope. Sarah studied it through the optical enhancement suite of her modified environmental suit, counting guard rotations and tracking security patterns. This is insane, Kexley whispered beside her. The Neovari scientist's bioluminescent patterns shifted with anxiety, creating subtle ripples under her chameleonic camouflage. The quantum barriers alone should make infiltration impossible. Sarah's neural implants processed the facility's defense grid, identifying microscopic flaws in its supposedly perfect security. Nothing's impossible, just improbable. And improbable is what humans do best. Their infiltration team was small, just 4 operatives chosen for their unique capabilities. Besides Sarah and Kexley, there was Raj with his unparalleled cyber warfare suite, and Dr. Marcus Webb, a former Alliance xenobiologist who'd spent years studying Concordat physiology. Remember, Sarah subvocalized through their secure channel, "We're not here to fight. This is an intelligence operation. Get in, secure the data, plant the quantum virus, get out. The real battle comes later." The plan had taken months to prepare. Every detail had been meticulously calculated, from the electromagnetic pulse that would create a momentary blind spot in the facility's sensors to the engineered bacteria that would disable specific security protocols without triggering alarms. Temporal mark in 3, 2, 1. Raj's voice was steady in their comms. Initiating. The EMP rippled through the facility's lower quadrant, invisible to normal sight, but clear through Sarah's enhanced vision. Security systems flickered for precisely 2.3 seconds, an eternity in digital time. They moved as one, their movements choreographed through hundreds of simulations. Kexley's natural abilities, enhanced by Sarah's modified tech, bent light around them. To any observers, they were merely heat distortions in the air. The facility's internal architecture was a maze of crystalline corridors and quantum lock chambers, but Sarah had memorized every detail from the stolen blueprints. Left at the 3rd junction, right at the processing node, down through the maintenance shaft that the Concordat's own workers had forgotten existed. "First checkpoint," Sarah announced as they reached a sealed door marked with glyphing warning signs. "Marcus." The xenobiologist removed a small container from his pack. Inside, genetically modified bacteria, specifically engineered to react with Concordat technology, began their work. The door's quantum lock held firm, but the organic components in its circuitry began to die. 30 seconds until system failure, Marcus reported, his voice clinical despite the tension. Sarah's augments detected approaching security. A routine patrol, right on schedule. They pressed themselves against the walls as 2 Concordat guards passed, their crystalline armor humming with contained energy. The door clicked softly. Access granted. Inside, the true purpose of the facility became clear. Massive data cores stretched into the darkness, each containing enough processing power to run a small planet's infrastructure. But they weren't being used for civilian purposes. By the void, Kexley breathed, her bioluminescence dimming in horror. These are genetic sequencing arrays. They're mapping entire species, preparing for systematic extinction. Sarah's implants connected to the nearest terminal, beginning the data extraction while Raj prepared the quantum virus. The information that scrolled through her enhanced vision confirmed their worst fears. The Concordat hadn't just been suppressing technological advancement. They'd been preparing for a galaxy-wide purge. Any species that showed too much potential, too much independence, would be eliminated through carefully engineered natural disasters. Upload at 60%, Raj reported. But we've got a problem. The security algorithms are adapting faster than predicted. They'll detect us in about 3 minutes. Sarah made a quick decision. Change of plans. Kexley, help Raj complete the upload. Marcus, prepare a secondary distraction. I'm going to give them something else to worry about. Before her team could object, Sarah was moving. Her neural implants interfaced with the facility's systems, causing cascading failures in non-critical systems. Alarms began to blare as environmental controls went haywire in distant sections. What are you doing? Raj demanded through their comm link. Creating chaos, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across control surfaces. The Concordat maintains power through perfect order, so let's introduce some disorder. She accessed the facility's primary research database, initiating a massive data transfer to every connected system in the sector. Not the sensitive military data that would be blocked too quickly. Instead, she sent proof of the Concordat's systematic suppression of other species, evidence that would be impossible to dismiss as forgery because it came from their own secure networks. Warning klaxons echoed through the crystalline corridors. Security teams began mobilizing, but they were scattered, unsure which emergency to respond to first. Upload complete, Raj announced. Virus is planted. Time to go. Time to go, Sarah confirmed, already moving back toward their entry point. Marcus, now would be a good time for that distraction. The xenobiologist released his final creation, a harmless but impressive-looking bacteria that spread rapidly through the air circulation system, causing all organic warning sensors to signal simultaneous contamination alerts. Their exit was a blur of controlled chaos. Security forces rushed past them, heading toward multiple false emergencies. The quantum virus began its work, slowly corrupting the facility's perfect order while remaining undetectable to standard diagnostic programs. As they cleared the facility's outer perimeter, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Concordat would eventually restore order, but the damage was done. Their perfect system had been breached, their secrets were spreading across the galaxy, and their carefully maintained image of invulnerability had cracked. Phase 1 complete, she subvocalized to her network of allies scattered across the galaxy. Begin Phase 2. The real war wouldn't be fought with weapons or ships. It would be fought with information, with truth, and with the one thing the Concordat couldn't control, the collective will of species tired of being suppressed. They had made it out alive, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The Concordat's response would be brutal when it came, but for the first time, they would be fighting an enemy they couldn't simply erase from existence. The aftermath of the Nexus infiltration spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. Within days, secure communications channels buzzed with encrypted messages as species after species discovered the truth about their stunted development. The Concordat's response was swift and predictable. They denied everything, dismissed the evidence as fabrications, and increased security across all their installations. Sarah watched the chaos unfold from the bridge of the Shadowbreak, a modified stealth vessel she'd acquired through her network. The ship's quantum-masked hull kept it hidden from conventional sensors, while its advanced AI core, developed by liberated Neovari scientists, processed streams of tactical data. They're moving their fleets exactly as predicted, Raj reported, his cybernetic interfaces glowing as he monitored multiple information feeds, strengthening positions around their core worlds, abandoning outlying stations. Of course they are, Sarah replied, studying the holographic display. The Concordat values control above all else. When threatened, they consolidate power around vital assets. She highlighted several points on the map, which leaves these facilities vulnerable. The locations she'd marked were officially listed as agricultural research stations. In reality, they were biological weapons development centers, each working on specialized pathogens designed to target specific species. Teams are in position, Kexley announced, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with anticipation. The Araxian resistance has infiltrated 3 facilities in their sector. The Neovari have disabled security at 2 more. Even the Drachnid merchants have joined in. They're disrupting supply lines across half the galaxy. Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Concordat had spent centuries keeping potential rivals divided and weak. Now that same division was working against them. They couldn't defend against simultaneous attacks from multiple directions. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. "All teams, execute on my mark." Across the galaxy, carefully placed operatives sprang into action. On the agricultural world of Nexus 9, environmental control systems mysteriously failed, exposing sensitive research specimens to fatal radiation. In the Araxian sector, power fluctuations destroyed years of genetic research. Neovari infiltrators released targeted computer viruses that corrupted crucial data beyond recovery. Multiple facilities reporting catastrophic failures, Raj confirmed, his voice tight with concentration. The Concordat's emergency channels are overloaded. They can't respond to everything at once. But Sarah knew better than to celebrate too early. Watch for their countermove. The Concordat didn't maintain power this long by being predictable. As if summoned by her words, new alerts flashed across the tactical display. Concordat warships were emerging from quantum space near major population centers. Their crystalline hulls bristled with weapons designed to enforce their version of peace. They're threatening civilian targets, Kexley observed, her patterns shifting to colors of concern. "Trying to force us to back down." "No," Sarah's eyes narrowed as her neural implants analyzed the fleet movements. "They're desperate. These are their last research facilities. Without them, they'd lose their ability to control population development through engineered plagues. They're trying to distract us from something else." She expanded the tactical display, focusing on data traffic patterns. Behind the obvious military movements, subtle communication suggested another operation entirely. "There." She pointed to an apparently empty sector of space. "All their secure quantum communications are being routed through that region. That's where their backup servers are hidden, their insurance policy." Raj's fingers flew across his interface, confirming, "Massive data storage facility, completely off official records. They're trying to preserve their research data while we destroy their physical facilities." Sarah had expected something like this. The Concordat's power wasn't in their ships or their weapons. It was in their knowledge, their carefully accumulated data on how to manipulate and control entire species. "Change of plans," she announced. "Kexley, signal our allies to continue their attacks on the research stations. Raj, prepare the quantum virus for transmission. I'm taking the Shadowbreak in." The hidden facility was protected by overlapping fields of quantum distortion, designed to tear apart any ship that approached without proper codes. But Sarah had spent months studying Concordat security protocols, and her neural implants had mapped their patterns. The shadow break slipped through the facility's defenses like a ghost through fog. Its neo-very enhanced systems matched frequencies with the quantum fields, becoming effectively invisible to the facility sensors. "They're beginning emergency data transfer protocols," Raj reported, "trying to move everything to yet another backup location." "Not this time." Sarah's fingers danced across the control surfaces as she interfaced directly with the ship's systems. "Prepare to broadcast the virus on my mark." The facility's automated defenses finally registered their presence, but it was too late. The virus transmitted through the same channels they were using to transfer their precious data, corrupting everything it touched. Alarms blared as the facility's quantum cores began to overload. Sarah guided the shadow break away just as the first explosions began, the ship's stealth systems masking their escape. "Data center is completely destroyed," Raj confirmed. "No recoverable information survived. Even their backup servers are corrupted beyond repair." Sarah watched the facility's death throes on the tactical display. The Concordat ruled through information control, deciding who got to advance and who stayed primitive. Without their research data, without their biological weapons programs, they're just another species trying to maintain an empire that's already crumbling. Reports began flowing in from across the galaxy. Without centralized coordination, Concordat forces were falling into disarray. Some commanders surrendered to local resistance forces. Others tried to maintain control through brute force, only to find their weapon systems mysteriously malfunctioning thanks to neo-very cyber warfare specialists. "Multiple species are declaring independence," Kexley announced, her patterns shifting to colors of joy. The Araxians, the Drachnid Merchant Confederation, even some Concordat colony worlds are breaking away. But Sarah remained focused on the tactical display. It's not over yet. The Concordat leadership will have one final card to play. They'll try to unite their remaining forces for a last, desperate strike. She began plotting new courses, preparing for the final phase of their operation. The Concordat's leaders would realize they were losing control, and that would make them more dangerous than ever. "Send word to all our allies," she ordered. "The real battle is about to begin." The crystalline spires of Concordat Prime gleamed in the light of 3 suns, their perfect geometries a testament to the order their creators had tried to impose on the galaxy. But beneath that perfect facade, chaos reigned. The streets filled with protesters from a dozen species, their voices united in demanding change. Sarah watched from the shadow break's cloaked observation deck as the Concordat's capital world erupted in carefully orchestrated rebellion. Her neural implants processed hundreds of data streams simultaneously, coordinating movements across the planet. "Final reports coming in," Raj announced, his cybernetic interfaces pulsing with activity. "The Concordat High Council has retreated to their emergency bunker beneath the central spire. They're preparing to activate something called the Unity Protocol." "That's what we've been waiting for," Sarah replied, her expression grim. "They're going to try to reassert control the only way they have left, by forcing a direct neural link with every augmented being in their sphere of influence." Kexley's bioluminescent patterns shifted to warning colors. "They can do that. They built the basic architecture into every piece of neural technology they ever allowed other species to develop," Sarah explained. "A hidden backdoor, meant for exactly this kind of situation. Once activated, it would let them override individual thought processes, turning billions into a single, unified consciousness under their control." "Then we're too late," Marcus said, his xenobiologist's training helping him grasp the implications. "If they activate that system—" "They won't," Sarah cut him off, "because we're going to give them exactly what they want." She turned to her team, her cybernetic eyes glowing with intensity. "That's why I had to die at Outpost Sigma 7. That's why we had to let them think they'd won. So I could build this." She interfaced with the ship's systems, displaying schematics for a modified neural architecture, unlike anything the others had seen. It was human innovation merged with Neovary organic computing and Araxian quantum mechanics, a hybrid system that defied conventional understanding. When they activate the Unity protocol, they'll try to connect to every neural network in range. Sarah continued, including mine. But instead of giving them control, my modified implants will create a feedback loop, pushing our compiled evidence directly into the shared consciousness they're trying to create. Rad's eyes widened as he understood. They'll broadcast the truth to everyone simultaneously. Every crime, every manipulation, every suppressed civilization. Exactly. The Concordat maintained power through controlled information. Let's see how they handle complete transparency. The plan was set in motion. As protests intensified across the capital, the Concordat High Council did exactly what Sarah had predicted. Deep beneath their central spire, they activated the Unity protocol, reaching out to seize control of billions of minds. The effect was instantaneous, but not what they had intended. Instead of imposing their will on the galaxy, they opened a channel for the truth to flood through. Every being with neural augmentation suddenly had access to complete, unfiltered information about the Concordat's centuries of manipulation. Sarah's consciousness expanded as she joined the network, her modified implants protecting her autonomy while allowing her to guide the flow of information. Through the shared neural space, she felt the shock and outrage of countless minds as they discovered how their development had been stunted, their potential curtailed. The Concordat leaders tried to shut down the system, but it was too late. Their own failsafes worked against them, keeping the network active until everyone connected had received the full data download. When they finally managed to terminate the connection, the damage was done. Multiple Concordat warships are standing down, Raj reported, monitoring the tactical feeds. Their crews are refusing orders. Some are actively turning against their commanders. Sarah watched through the Shadowbreak sensors as the perfect order of Concordat Prime dissolved into revolution. But this wasn't chaos. It was evolution, the natural result of multiple species finally breaking free from artificial constraints. The High Council is attempting to evacuate, Kexley announced, her patterns showing satisfaction. They have a hidden quantum ship in the bunker. Let them run, Sarah said, surprising her team. Their power is broken. Without their research data, without their control systems, without the fear they inspired, they're nothing. In the days that followed, the galaxy underwent a transformation. The Concordat's elaborate system of suppression and control crumbled as species after species reclaimed their independence. New alliances formed, not based on dominance, but on mutual benefit and shared growth. Sarah stood before the newly formed Galactic Coalition, her official death now formally revoked. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, many of them wielding technologies that would have been forbidden under Concordat rule. The age of enforced stability is over, she addressed the assembly. We've seen what happens when one group tries to control the development of all others. The galaxy doesn't need a single species imposing order. It needs all of us growing together, learning from each other's differences. The Coalition Charter was signed that day, establishing new principles for interstellar cooperation. No single species would be allowed to dominate. Technological and cultural exchange would be encouraged, not suppressed. And most importantly, the rights of emerging civilizations would be protected. As Sarah left the chamber, she passed a group of young aliens studying at newly established education centers. Their neural implants were of their own design, free from hidden backdoors or control mechanisms. In their eager discussions, she heard the future, a galaxy where potential wasn't limited by the fears of the powerful. Was it worth it? Raj asked as they walked. Giving up your life, becoming a ghost. Sarah watched a Neovary ship dock alongside a human vessel, their crews exchanging knowledge that would have been forbidden just months ago. I didn't give up my life, she replied. I helped give life to something new, something better. The Concordat had thought they could maintain power by keeping species divided and weak. Instead, they had created the conditions for unprecedented unity. In trying to prevent chaos, They had fostered the very innovation and cooperation they had feared. In the end, the greatest weapon against systemic oppression hadn't been superior firepower or advanced technology. It had been the simple, uncontrollable human traits the Concordat had tried to suppress: adaptability, determination, and the unwavering desire for freedom. High above the coalition chambers, the Shadowbreak maintained its vigil, a reminder that eternal vigilance was the price of liberty. The ghost that had helped topple an empire remained ready, ensuring that no power would ever again try to control the destiny of all.